The Atlanta Falcons have selected Michael Penix Jr.
You're doing your team a disservice by not making your team better so that you can compete now.
You spent $160 million on a quarterback. Well, because I think this is pretty idiotic.
As we all are very, very well aware by now, the Atlanta Falcons take Michael Penix with the 9th pick in the 2024 draft. Let's get straight into it. Yes, the Atlanta Falcons starting to make a splash, make the biggest noise, make the biggest signee of the offseason, especially at that quarterback position. They sign a veteran, the guy coming off of an Achilles tear, but a guy who has been consistently good in the NFL for a very long time now in Kirk Money Man Cousins, Kirk Chains. They land him. Kirk is now the starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, why has there been so much discourse? Why is there so much people have to say about Michael Penix going to Atlanta, especially 9th? Let's get deeper into this. We're obviously going to look at team needs. Every single draft, every single time, we look at team needs. Now, obviously, we know Atlanta was not good against the pass rush. Mina Kimes and many other have proven that to us and let us know that's where they need players.
And they finished 32nd in ESPN's pass rush win rate last year.
At the edge, somebody that can get to the quarterback. They also could have used another corner. They also could have used a center. Just some of the team needs where we're thinking this is the direction the Atlanta Falcons are going to go in the draft. Guys that were on the board with the draft pick: Latu from UCLA, Dallas Turner from Bama, Chop Robinson from Penn State, Quinion Mitchell, the corner that went to the Eagles from Toledo. A lot of people thought he was the top corner in the draft. He was available for them with their 9th pick coming up. It seemed like the direction they were going was in the win now category. It seemed like with the addition of Kirk Cousins, he's not in his 20s, he's well in his 30s, he's coming off of that Achilles tear. You kind of have to go and try to win now if we get him. If the thought isn't we're going to be competitive now, we're going to win now, why get Kirk Cousins? In that case, draft Michael Penix. He's going to be your quarterback of the future. People aren't going to be too upset. Maybe you use that Kirk money and spend it elsewhere to build for the future. There's a lot of options you can go. But with the addition of Kirk Cousins, it seems like we're winning now. This is what we're going to do. And like you already know, as we all know, instead they draft Michael Penix Jr. Now, with that being said, it would be a disservice not to go into the career of Michael Penix and not look at him as just a prospect. Taking out the account of the team he's on, let's just look at Michael Penix as a prospect. Tore his ACL his freshman year. Tore it again in 2020. Dislocated his AC joint in 2021, but that was to his non-throwing shoulder, his right arm, his right shoulder. And since then, he's been relatively healthy. Michael Penix has been healthy since there. Some bumps and bruises that every quarterback, or mostly every player that plays this game, is going to endure those bumps and bruises, but relatively healthy since then. But more importantly, his healthiest seasons came his last 2 seasons, which is also his best in his young career thus far. The downside of it is obviously the position in which he was taken and the addition of Kirk Cousins. A lot of people didn't have him in the top 10. Shout out RG3, one of the very few people I did see him saying this is a top 10 quarterback. He should be taken in the top 10. He is one of the better quarterbacks in the draft class. A lot of people didn't think so. A lot of people had JJ McCarthy over him. So the fact that not only was he selected, he was selected in the top 10 already caused a bit of a stir. Top that with the fact that it was to the Atlanta Falcons, who just acquired a very expensive quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Now this is where the discourse starts. This is where all of the opinions and all the negative opinions on the draft pick come into play. A lot of it unfair for Michael Penix himself. But this is what's going to happen. And listen, it's not even just about Penix. Anytime somebody spends a top 10 pick on a backup, it's going to have negative backlash. It's going to have some critique, some negative critique when you're drafting in the top 10 and you draft somebody who is going to be on the bench. You know he's not going to start for you because you already have somebody at that position. That's just the way it is, no matter what position you play. If you're in the top 10, you should be a day one starter, or at least like, hey, you're the face of the franchise for sure. You're a guy that we look at as being a cornerstone of this team very, very soon. Michael Penix is obviously brought in to be a backup for the foreseeable future, maybe for sure this year, but even next year and the year after, if things go right, he should be a backup. Now, the upside to drafting Michael Penix Jr. I would say the upside to Michael Penix Jr.'s career, not necessarily the Falcons, but to him specifically, is he gets to join a great quarterback room. Kirk Cousins, Taylor Heineke, he gets to sit behind those guys and learn from those guys. Whatever your opinion is on Kirk Cousins, oh, he hasn't won a Super Bowl, playoff Kirk, all these things, it doesn't matter. He is a professional in every sense of the way. He goes to work the right way. That's why he gets the bags that he gets. That's why he gets paid the way he does. It's because he's a constant professional. He takes it the right way. He goes about his business the right way. And I think that's something that Michael Penix is going to be able to see and learn a lot from. Whatever your opinion is on Taylor Heineke, he's known how to stay ready for his moments. He understands how to be a really good backup quarterback, and he has a lot of perspective to give Michael Penix on staying ready, on never knowing when your number is going to be called, and how to prepare as a starter even when you're a backup. Taylor Heineke has had to do that a lot of times. So he joins a great quarterback room, and obviously because he's joining that room, because of anything else, his age is the other issue, right? He's not 22, 21 years old. He's 24. And in my opinion, if he plays before he turns 27, something with Kirk Cousins went terribly wrong. It went terribly wrong. If he gets to a point where we see him before the age of 27, Kirk Cousins got hurt. Kirk Cousins is just not doing well. It was a mistake. They shouldn't have gotten him. Something went horrific in the Kirk Cousins experiment with the Atlanta Falcons if we see Michael Penix before the age of 27. So that's obviously a huge downside to it. A lot of negative criticism obviously comes off of his age as well, right? When you look at these guys, Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes and all these guys, they were drafted at 21 and 22 years old. So even if they started 3 years later, they're still not even 25 when they get their start. Patrick Mahomes, I think, was 23 or 24 when he got his start. Jordan Love, I think, was 24 when he got his start. So both younger than Michael Penix is right now when they finally started. So it's a little bit different. I understand that it's not the same. Old Penix going there is the same as Patrick Mahomes or Jordan Love going to sit behind a starting quarterback. It really isn't exactly the same. Now, with that being said, there is a silver lining. There is a silver lining, and I'm going to tell you what that light at the end of the tunnel is if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan. As I mentioned for the Atlanta Falcons, they seem to be drafting for now. It seemed like that's what they were going to do. Because they had Kirk Cousins, they didn't need a quarterback. They were the only team that you were looking at, one of the few teams that you were looking at, especially in the top 10, that you went, quarterback position is good. There's no need for us to draft a quarterback right now this year if it's not the best one in Caleb Williams or whoever you think that is, between him or whoever else. Drake May, Jaden Daniels, whoever you think is the best. We don't have to draft a quarterback. And you may go, well, that's why it's dumb. But that tells you that it was never a plan to draft a quarterback. It was a plan to draft him if he's available. What that tells you is that the Atlanta Falcons, from a scouting department, think that he has the potential and the opportunity to become the best quarterback out of this class. Because like I said, they weren't going to draft whoever was available. If Michael Penix wasn't on the board and J.J. McCarthy was, I don't think they're drafting J.J. McCarthy. I don't think they're drafting anybody else that came past J.J. McCarthy. I think they were looking at this as we have these guys on our board that I mentioned to you previously, but if this guy is available, we can't pass on this guy because we see something nobody else sees in him. We see him as the best quarterback in the class, not the guys taken in front of him, and that has to bring a little bit of excitement and a little bit of positive outlook for you if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan. A little bit of optimism, there's the word, a little bit of optimism if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, to say, okay, we didn't need him, but we wanted him that bad. He must be good. We must have something special planned for him. And the good thing is, the upside to it is, outside of Kirk Cousins and a few others, this team is relatively young, especially when we're speaking of Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. Those three players in particular, the pillars of that offense, will not be in their prime with Kirk Cousins. No, they will be in their prime with Michael Penix Jr. So whatever your thought is, whatever your opinion is on Michael Penix, we're not going to know whether it's valid or invalid until he gets his first career start. Until he has his first year as a starter, our opinions right now, whether we hate it or love it, don't matter. They have no validation to them. They are not right or wrong until we see him have his first year as a starter with the Falcons. The problem is, when will that be? We have no clue.